I wanted to introduce myself and let you know about my background in the sports betting handicapping arena since the actually late 1980s, so well over 30 years of experience here, um, dating back to when I was in my early 20s. I've been betting sports for over 30 years, as I said. I have bet as much as probably $100 million in 1 year, and I've consistently bet in the millions or tens of millions of dollars every year, except for a few years in that whole span. I've been consistently betting that amount. What's unique about me is that I'm not a typical tout. I'm actually a sports bettor. I'm a handicapper. I'm a businessman. I'm an investor. I'm an author. I do a lot of things. But the sports betting has been something that has allowed me to live a financially free life, and it's allowed me to invest in other opportunities that, and including my own businesses, that has been extremely helpful since I was in my early 20s. In the 1990s, I was probably the biggest sports bettor in Nevada and possibly all of the United States. In 1995 alone, when I was allowed to bet at maximum limits de Mirage, I won over $10 million, all while our sports directors helplessly watched as millions and millions of their fortunes evaporated into thin air. I did it again at Pinnacle in the early 2000s, where I took $50,000 as an opening deposit and turned it into over $4 million in 4 days. What was also very amazing about that was I won at least $1 million a day for 4 days in a row. My meteoric rise has been the envy of others who lacked the guts and pattern recognition to pull this off. These days, the sports books have wisened up, and they basically have kind of changed how they do things anyways. And so my betting limits have really been limited. For me to go on a multi-million dollar run in a sports book now is almost impossible. They just won't allow it. They'll stop me before it gets too far, unless I'm willing to go in and bet millions of dollars in the casino, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If they were allowing me to bet where I could win $5 or $10 million and wouldn't stop me, I'd go throw a million or two at the casino to be able to do that. But other than that, there's no sports book in Las Vegas these days that allow me to bet anything near what I was able to bet in the 1990s at the Mirage, or what I was able to bet before Pinnacle got shut down. Now, because of these facts, what am I going to do? Am I going to go ahead and just say, well, I'm just going to bet smaller for the rest of my life and that's it? That's one option. There's another way that I can do is to share my success, and that's to allow others to benefit from the winning strategies that have made me over $30 million betting on sports over the years. I started betting on sports when it was legal to when I was 21, and what has followed has become one of the greatest winning runs in history of sports. In my earliest years of betting on sports, I'd already installed some fear in the books. Once I get on a run, I was known to wreck the smaller sports books' profits for the entire year in a weekend. And when I found private bookies to work with, they would gladly take my bets and my money. But when they'd end up owing me $100, $150, $200,000 after 1 week of action, this number has been disconnected. I rarely received any of the money. So it was important to me that I was able to bet with casinos or like Pinnacle or something at the time that had the ability to pay, because I don't bet like anyone else. And I can start with low amounts and win big quick. I remember the Bally's casino. I didn't realize how unusual I was when I was in the early 20s. I went in and I got used to winning 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000 on a ticket. I guess that's just not that common for people to take small amounts of money and run it up as fast as I was doing. My first real experience was at the Bally's casino, where I came in and beat him, and the sportsbook director told me that they were going to change the name of the casino to my name, because I'm basically going to own it if I kept betting like that. And I said, well, that's no big, I think I beat him for $125,000 or something. And then I said, that's not that big a deal. I mean, you guys are Bally's. And they go, you don't realize what we make in the course of a season or a year. You're about to wipe us out for our entire profit for the entire year. You already wiped us out for a season in a weekend. And I'm like, oh, I'm serious. I didn't know. I didn't realize that was that big of a deal. I went to a couple of the private, back then they had private sports books too, and I won 125, 150,000 on a couple round robins. And one of them closed. They closed the next week. At least I got paid. Broken pieces of that winning run still are scattered all over the place like a wreckage of a plane crash. So to me, I didn't think it was a big deal, but it certainly became a big deal to others. My fame spread throughout Las Vegas like a virus pretty quick, and pushing a lot of the sports books to the point where they certainly did not want any of my action. One of the things I did is I bet these round robin combination parlays where the computer system didn't even realize how much exposure they had on them if all the games hit. And I get on a hot run, it's like taking candy from a baby. But one of the things I remember was after going on a big run at some other places, I went over to Caesars. And Caesars Palace was still is, it's one of the biggest casinos around. And I went up to bet one of my combination tickets, and they broke the news to me that my limits were going to be $100. And like $100 a parlay, and they no, $100 total. And that I said, well, why? And they said, we already heard of what you've done around town, and we don't want the same thing to happen to us. And so that's what led to one of their sportsbook writers telling me about Steve Wynn's Mirage, which was recently opened, and that they have a take it all policy. They'll take any amount of action that I would want to put up. So Binion's was doing a lot back then too, but I wasn't as fond of going downtown and dealing with Binion's crowd downtown. The Mirage was a beautiful place and definitely more my style. I've already experienced the thrill of winning for 30 years. At times, I've won so much money, it stopped even giving me any thrill or joy. So my thrill and joy now is to share my knowledge with you. I want you to be able to have a better financial career and financial life. If this is something you're going to do full-time, part-time on the side, it works. The sheer thought of seeing other players paying for losing picks from so-called gurus with much flexing but no muscles really is disturbing to me. I want to change this industry. I want people who are in the tout business, sports handicapping information business, show your tickets. Show that you're betting on them. Show a track record. Don't hide when you lose. Show it. And explain why. Like right now, some of the times I'll take teams that have been red hot, and you want to run with the red hot teams. But red hot teams get cold too. And I'll catch that pattern. But we're going to lose when the red hot team's pattern breaks. But we've made a lot of money in the process. So the bounce patterns come and go. The home road advantages come and go. When teams have players changes, impacts them. But then that impact wears out because the spread changes to account for that. It's always a constant flow of pattern recognition. And I tell you what, unless someone really knows how to do this, they're not going to succeed at it in the long run. If they don't know how to manage their money, they're not going to succeed. They might break even. That's kind of all they could ask for. But why do you want to break even for? And why would you pay to break even? That doesn't make any sense. Really, I'm tired of seeing gullible people get suckered. What separates me from the people that don't care is that I do care. I really want you to win. And common sense will tell you, if you're not winning, I'm getting crushed. So you got someone that's putting their own money way more than almost anyone else is on the same picks. I want to help you so you don't get burned by the typical touts that are all smoke but no fire.
Yeah.